What's going on, all my fellow gamers, my daydreamers and night streamers? It is 21:30 on the Gulf Coast, and we are already running the window AC here in February. It's rough down here in Florida. Anyway, I hope everyone is having a good night. Welcome to the stream. We got a lot of different things we're going to be doing this evening, and it's going to be fun, informative. I'm actually looking forward to it. I was this afternoon, and it's going to be kind of a. Let me go ahead and bounce over here, get this going. All right. Get this volume stuff turned down so I don't get feedback. All right. First, I want to get some admin stuff out of the way because that's something I said I'd kind of be doing from here on out. So on the last stream I did when I was doing Arc Raiders and we were doing the trophy runs, I gave a shout out to YouTube subscribers because there was a little bit of an influx after a video got posted, and I had a few more subscribers to both YouTube and Twitch. And from there to now, I had a couple more. So just to kind of get it out there, shout out to Andy Benson and Gutty89. Man, I appreciate your subscribes, dude. Hopefully you guys get something out of the channel. And just to remind everybody, when it comes to the various videos, all it really boils down to is things that I stream here. Once I'm done, put in the chapter markers, put in a good amount of descriptions, and then when you see the video, just kind of scrub what you want, and then you can skedaddle out once you've got your little slice of pie. So tonight, and I've been really trying to kind of hash out how to keep this somewhat cohesive. So tonight we are picking up where Enderprize left off today. Those of you who are not familiar with that individual, he runs he's very extensive, different bunch of channels. He's a dude that does drums, I guess, rock music, and of course Star Citizen. And he's one of the channels that I've talked about before in a couple of my streams when I was on Star Citizen. Well, today he was doing the SCUF controller. Corsair sent him one, so he was going to go ahead and showcase it. And I caught his short that he put online real quick, and I commented. I was like, "Oh, cool, man! Looking forward to seeing your feedback." Because he's like, "Hey, we're going to get the SCUF loaded up. We're going to play Star Citizen. We're going to, work on things that this is where I'm going to be picking up." But I thought, well, great. It's about time somebody else is getting out there and showcasing the abilities of the SCUF in conjunction with various games, and of course, Star Citizen, because that one has a lot of different complexity when it comes to the various button controls and all that. I showed it off a little bit. It was back in November, but it wasn't a dedicated stream. I was already working on the HOTAS, and I just said, "Oh, hey, by the way, you can use the controller," and I busted it out and did a couple things. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to talk about where I found the glitch or the speed bumps in his stream, because what I did is I didn't see the stream until about the last half hour, and by then there was a lot going on. Everybody was trying to troubleshoot in the chat, and a couple buddies he had, I think they were in Discord, and they were trying to really hash this out. So when they were done, what I did is I went back, I watched the first 2 hours, because I figured somewhere in the sequence I might find what it was that, or the catalyst of how things got a little bogged down. And so there were a couple things that I saw that I'm sure by now everybody's like, okay, we realize what kind of happened. And then from there, we're going to pick up. We're going to get into, I'm going to show my mapping, get into Star Citizen, kind of show y'all how it does work, because it does work. It does work really well, actually. It's kind of cool. And then how you would take everything that we're going to talk about, everything that Enterprise is going to eventually do, because I'm sure he's going to get up and running. He's going to showcase this thing. It's going to be a phenomenal, streamer video when he starts really showing off the difference between running FPS and then running ship. And then from there, you can take all that and apply that to your particular play style if you decide to, if you're already using a controller, or if you decide you want to transition over to SCUF because of the extra button functions, which is really what the big advantage is to using the SCUF Envision, or in my case, I do use the SCUF Envision Pro. So that getting started, okay. And again, this video, when I get done with it, I'm going to pop it in Final Cut. I'm going to add chapter markers to everything. So when I pop it over to YouTube, anyone who just happens to see this, just jump into YouTube, go check out the chapter markers, and everything's going to be, there. So if you want to go in and watch like 2 seconds of me doing something with a ship, great. It just showcases that it works, because there are a lot of circus clowns out there with a lot of channels trying to make a lot of product look bad on purpose. And it's not just controllers, it's earbuds, it's microphones, it's cameras, it's everything. And I just don't think that's good for the brand. It's not good because the product is phenomenal. And all I did was go to the store and buy one. So, and I'll get into all that stuff. So just to kind of start where he started, right? So it is going to be the Envision Pro, right? The wireless one that's got the dongle. It's the one that you can use with Elgato Stream Deck, since Corsair kind of has a bit of a pool there. Now, I don't use it with Stream Deck or anything like that, so we're not going to focus on that aspect of it. But the order March, when everything was rocking and rolling, did the unboxing, all that, and that was great. So here are some things to keep in mind, that everything that was done in the sequence that it should have gotten done, right? So when we're talking about the boxing itself, which I have to admit the boxing is pretty legit. So the one thing they pointed out was make sure that you go get the software download. If you don't already have the iCUE software, that's the first thing you should do. Now, he already had it, so he didn't have to go re-download anything. It was automatically got it up and running. Now, what you want to do, and this is kind of the imperative part, and this is our, I think, one hang-up, where it started one little hang-up, but I don't think that would have been the main catalyst for why things got a little bumpy there. But make sure that when you have the, all right, so I know I'm kind of all over the place because I want to stay a little bit in sequence with how he was doing things. So if you watch the video and you see what's going on, it's like, okay, these things were happening. It's right. It's not part of like it's not out of sync with anything else, right? So essentially, when you first get the controller, you have the switch on the back, right? So you have the USB and then the wireless, and it comes standard on the USB side. So you want to plug in the controller into your computer. You want to plug the dongle in directly into the computer. I think the first little snafu was plugging it into a hub. You do want to kind of avoid that, because that could mess up the interconnectivity between the controller and the dongle and all that stuff. Because one thing I did notice, when he plugged it into his hub, you could hear his audio feed click real quick. So I don't know if there was something that happened there when the hub was like, okay, now I've got one more device and I need to figure out where to put all the information that's coming in and out. But at the end of the day, I don't think that was the main problem. But just from me to you, just plug the controller into your computer with the, it has a USB and a dongle. So just plug it in there, and then take the wireless dongle, plug it into your computer, fire up the software. And then this is what things will look like right out the gate, right? So let's pretend we download the software. Software is running, everything's plugged in, and here we go. It's turned on, it's connected, we're great. Now, one of the things you also want to be cognizant of is go to your settings, make sure that all of your firmware is up to date. And mine is, so I don't have to worry about that. And I double checked today just to make sure that everything was good to go. Right, so make sure that firmware is good. Once that's good, I think he had it where once he was doing something, it had you do a restart. And that's pretty much where I left off, was once I got everything plugged in, once the software loaded up, once I got the firmware updates done, because it needed one. I don't think he needed one, because when Corsair sent him his with the high-speed looking green cover on there, pretty sure the firmware was like up to date already. So, but just always make sure you double check that. And then once I was done, I just rebooted my computer, because we all know how Windows is with devices. When you start plugging stuff in and installing stuff, you may need to do a restart just to kind of keep everything freshened up. Now, once I restarted, what I did is I just unplugged the controller, flipped it over to the wireless side, and this is what you're getting right now. And this is one thing I couldn't tell right away. Up here on the right-hand corner, as you see, you've got the little green icon that says there's enough battery power, right? And then now the Wi-Fi connection won't have any coloring to it, but you are connected. And that's the thing that I couldn't see on the screen, because when you went to pair it, I didn't see if it actually paired or not. And that's where I think maybe the hub got involved somewhere in there, and it was just kind of whatever. But in any case, so when you see the Wi-Fi symbol, it's not going to physically show anything or any color. It's just going to have the icons going to be up there, which lets you know, yes, it is connected. And there you go. So that's the dongle part of it. Where I think things got really, where the speed bumps really kicked in was two specific things. When he went to mappings, and I'm trying to remember the two, because I literally watched the first 2 hours just to try and figure this out. When you go to mappings, right out of the gate, you can start key binding all the extra control, all the extra buttons you want right away. You don't have to do anything separate or special. It's not the advanced part of it. And of course, this is where you can program your G1 through G5, and then your P1 through P4, and then your two side, your S1 and your S2 buttons, because this is where you're getting a lot more expanded capability versus using a regular controller for doing whether it's PC or Steam or Xbox related. Because I do have the Xbox Game Pass, I do have Steam, and I have like regular PC, which in this case would be Star Citizen. Just to highlight something too, button G3 and G4 are your volume buttons, like as a default, because when he was pressing some stuff, you saw his volume go up and down. He was kind of wondering about that. And I'm sure everybody's going to go back and look at it, and he's got it all figured out by now. But the G1 through G5 have a default to them, and you actually can control your volume with those. So just to kind of get that out of the way. But in any case, this is where the meat and potatoes of Star Citizen and the advantage to the SCUF versus other controllers where you're limited on button sequences. So I'm forgetting something. Hang on. Checking the note. Oh, the joystick thing. Okay, that's what it was. This is the other thing that got hung up that I think was part of the other snafu. When you go to your game controllers, it's not going to come up as a SCUF Envision Pro, whatever. And I think this is what really powered down the whole thing. It's still going to show as an Xbox 360. You can see it. It still comes up as that. It doesn't say SCUF Envision. It's not going to. This is where the iCUE software really comes in handy, because the software is what's telling the computer that this is a SCUF controller and you can use all the buttons that are available. But unfortunately, the Windows aspect of it is not going to tell you that. Unless somebody out there is able to have it register as a SCUF specifically, that'd be a great thing to do a follow-up on. But for right now, I think this was the biggest hang-up right here, because then he had the controller plugged in for separate power because he wanted to keep it charged. Copy that. And he had the dongle plugged in. So theoretically, the controller was ready to rock and roll. But he was under the impression that it was just in like an Xbox mode, so to speak. And technically he was right. You could have mapped it out right there, because yes, by default, P1 through P4 go back to whatever their respective buttons were. But since I've been playing around with this, that's where this is where I think the dongle kind of was not meshing with everything else as well. I forgot what the default is on that too, because this is a default button as well. But that's the big hang up. So just to kind of recap everything, I've just been whatever. When you connect the SCUF and you check your game controllers, it's not going to show up as SCUF. It's still going to say you've got an Xbox controller plugged in. You don't have to worry about that, because that's what the iCUE software physically does for you. Now you could, if you wanted to, flip it back over to USB, plug it back into the computer, and just use it however without the software at all. But then you are going to be limited back to the amount of buttons that you have, and it's going to think it's just a raw, uncut Xbox controller. And if somebody's been able to figure something else out, get that information out there, because right now the best thing to do is focus attention to getting some good information out there, getting the right information out there, and helping everybody out. That way it'll save, 20 more videos. And here's what I was thinking too. There's going to be maybe a couple of circus clowns out there. They're going to grab that video of his and they're going to start chopping it up and saying, look, the SCUF controller is a bunch of garbage, X, Y, and Z, and this and that. And it's like, no, it's not, but that's okay. All right. So when we talk about Star Citizen, really the biggest thing is the ships. All right. Because we've got all the different functionality in the ships. We've got your keybind commands, U for powering it up, I for shields, U to power it up, I for engines, O for shields. We got the landing gear function. We got the nav function. We've got camera, and we got the Z. We got Alt. We need Alt H for the helmet. We need the Command F, right? The function button. That's one of the more critical ones, because that's your functionality in the game, right? How do we use a cursor function in the game? Because if we're not using a mouse, which I still have my keyboard and mouse all right here. I'm actually kind of show you the troubleshooting aspect of kind of getting around that. So the keybinds, let me show you what I did. And then when we go in there, I'll show you the keybinds again, because he did cover that. And everything he talked about was 100% John the on the spot. And I'm just going to pick up where he kind of left off with the explanation, especially on the other merge key, the function key to get something else to happen, which is what I have programmed here. Now, the number one thing that I did, whoops, let me come down here, side button. All right. So for the ships, what I did is I used the two side buttons. So this side button is specifically keybind for you, for power up. And then this specific keybind, basically S1, is for shields. Sorry, I'm rethinking this a little bit, because what I don't want to do is jump so far back and forth that all right, here's what I need to do. This is another thing that, okay. First, let's talk about how to even remap the keys. Let's start there. That's my fault, because I was going to do that kind of towards the back end, because I'm going to show the difference between the F key and then using RB, one being the default, the other being specific. Anyway, so if you want to do your keybinds, and this is where I wasn't on soon enough, otherwise I'd have been like, hey man, you're ready to go, you're ready to map it, just, yeah, you're ready to get it done, is on all of these, you can specifically right click, and then you've got your gamepad, action, D-pad, triggers, bump, thumbsticks, echo mode. Remap is the big thing, because you want to come specifically to keyboard. It's going to open up the G4. So right now that's the G4 button, and then you can punch in specifically on the keybind whatever you want it to have, which is why you see the keyboard icon on these specific buttons. Now I don't have to worry about it, so I'm just going to leave it back to just the default, because I haven't figured out what to do with that yet. So that's, and I haven't done anything specific with thumbsticks and the triggers, as far as I'm not going to show any mapping there, because that's not really necessary for Star Citizen. I did a little bit for iRacing before my Logitech RS 50 wheelbase thing came in, and it does do, the sensitivity is awesome. I actually use this for Call of Duty, and there is something to that. Now with the keybinds, coming up here to the, technically what is the RB button, the right front or right top, whatever you want to call it, I actually have that specifically keybind for F. One of the things I ran into was leaving it default as RB, which the game registers it as that, is I couldn't do a quick purchase. So like when I went down to grab some food or something, like a burrito or a pop or whatever, and I went to do a quick purchase, it wouldn't register it. It would do the actual sale, and then I thought, okay, maybe it's not. And then there were some other issues with the buttons and all that stuff. So I thought, okay, let me go back. Let me see if I can actually physically keybind this thing, and if that makes a difference. And sure enough, it did. Now anything that requires the F or the function command or F key, now you can get it done. Now it'll do your quick purchases, long ones. It'll activate your the ship terminal, elevators, and we'll demo all that. But so the first thing I would do if you're going to do anything with SCUF is pick one button. I mean, you can pick whatever one you want, but specifically keybind it to F is what you want to do. Now, the second thing is helmet, because we need Alt H for that, right? So that might pose a little bit of a problem if we don't have an Alt key for using a controller. Well, this is where the P1 and P4 buttons kind of came in handy. So I actually have P4 as my Alt, which is this one right here. And I've got P1, nope, not P1. Who's the noob? It's one of these, leave me alone. There we go, P2, I knew that. You knew that, it's okay. Everyone can laugh and be like, oh, yeah, we see what's going on here. All right, so I can actually use so what will end up happening is this is Alt, and I can do this to get my helmet on and off. And that, I'll show how that works. The other ones were for the camera mode, because I was testing out, I kind of remapped this thing to do to get the third person view and then work the camera around. How would you do that with a controller and all that good stuff? So that is the back keybinds right here. Going back to the two side buttons, which is this one here and this one here. So I've got, again, that was for, one was to power up the ship, and the other one was for shields, just so I could get that one, excuse me, right out of the gate. Coming down to the G keys, and I think I already covered that, but let me just kind of give it another once over. So G1 is Y. I specifically did that because, you know, when once you're in your ship, right, use the F command to get in, and then you hold and press Y to get out. So I use G1 as the Y button, so I can actually get out of a ship if need be. G2 is going to be cruise control. G3 is for nav, and G5 is actually F12, so I can get the all the comment section right out of the gate. Now, there's a bunch of different things you can do. I just did this because that's my sort of base style gameplay. When you're in your character doing first-person shooting, it's pretty much all the same meat and potatoes. You can still kind of program your base pad to do a few things. The LB button is the mod button, so I'll show you how we, because one of the things that he was talking about was, okay, once we're up, you know, how do we forward and back strafe, side to side, pitch, roll, yaw, all that good stuff. And I'll show you how I got that set up too. But hopefully this kind of brings us into where we would be right now if we were to just unbox the controller, right? So you unbox the controller, get the controller plugged into the PC, get the dongle in the back of the PC, download the software, make sure your firmware updates are good. Once everything is 100%, great. Restart your computer, fire it back up, and you can start mapping this thing out right away. Not just for Star Citizen, but whatever else you want. Like, for instance, the thumbsticks, the triggers, and the triggers, I can't even begin to, those things are awesome, and they automatically do stuff as well. Like, I'll automatically get resistance, especially when I was doing iRacing, and then I was doing something else too. And then the controllers, they'll pick up on the resistance that they need to give you, along with just the actual, you know, the give. And he demonstrated that too with the little switch that's on the back there and all that good stuff. So, and I may be going just a little bit fast, but there's not a lot of reason to rehash every single thing that got done. Right, so once everything's plugged in, firmware update, restart your computer, you're actually good to go. You're ready, you're Johnny on the spot, ready to make it happen. So to recap a couple things, make sure your dongle is plugged into the back of the PC. When you check your game controller function, it's not going to show up as a SCUF controller. Now, even if I wanted, and let's say you're a Steam person. So if I press the power button, boom, Steam automatically pops up. You want to make sure that this isn't open while you're trying to do something else, because it may, so what I'm looking for here, hijack the controller and think I'm going to use, you'll still be able to use everything, but I'm going to use it and it won't, you know, whatever. Yeah, I think you know where I'm going with that. So make sure you don't have 20 other programs opened up that use different controllers. But just to kind of show you how you would bring up Steam, that's like a default thing too. You just hit the power button, pops up, good to go. And if you have a separate headset, you can, of course, plug it into the bottom there and all good. But I got my in zones, so we're good. But sometimes when I'm just doing whatever, I'll grab my SteelSeries, unplug it from the PC and plug it into here and just use it the exact same way I would my PS5 controller. So that takes us there. So you're actually good to go to start mapping, start switching things up right out of the gate. And he already talked about, you can do your vibration, you can do lighting effects. I haven't really messed with all that stuff. The presets. This is where things get really fun and exciting. So you can do your preset mapping, shooter, battle royale, racing, sports, adventure, fighting. I had a couple set up, just sort of very, very generic. And as you can see, when you go back to the this is what the default looks like. So here we go. I'm glad I did that so I can kind of show you. So this is what came up, and this is where it looked like something was wrong, because it went back to all these buttons right here. And here are your volume buttons, volume control, volume down, volume up, mute, and microphone, and all that stuff, audio. So this was, I think, where another, because you can still use it for what it is. What you can do is the same, and that's where I deleted everything too. which I should have kept something, but I had 2 other presets on there. So you can kind of see where things changed up just a little bit, right? Racing, sports, action, so on and so on and so on. So when I did the custom one, I did one for Star Citizen. I did another one specifically. I wanted to try something different for Call of Duty just to see what the difference was. So I think that's where the hangup was, is he was in preset, and between the preset and between the Windows saying that the SCUF wasn't hooked up, I think that's where that was getting hung up. So come over to your custom, and then you can sit there and keybind everything right out of the gate. So that was my little mix-up. I forgot the presets versus the custom. But again, to kind of just go over that again, once you hooked up, once you download the software, restart your computer, then you can start getting in here and start getting after it. So I'll tell you what, let's go ahead, let's fire up some Star Citizen, and let's make sure my volume for Star Citizen was okay. So we should be good. Maybe I'll fire up some Call of Duty right after Star Citizen or something, I don't know. But let's go ahead. Now, you don't need the software open, so you can close out the software, because everything that you put into the software holds in the dongle and the controller. And you can actually map everything without having the controller on, and then when you turn the controller on, when it links, it automatically uploads everything. So you don't have to worry about trying to go back and save and save and save every single 5 minutes or anything like that. It's an automatic deal. Another good on you, SCUF and Corsair and all, or whoever owns everybody now. I kind of get a little lost in the sauce myself. RSI launcher. Thankfully, there was already an update today too. So now I can go back to, so what was it about once I got the PC, it was kind of like a tasking of what was I going to do from a controller standpoint. And why did I pick SCUF over all the other brands that are out there and all that stuff? Well, one of the things that really got my attention was just the fact of, it was probably one of the first ones that I saw, and was going to the website and kind of reading over everything. Get in here. I could probably turn that up because I'm not going to be doing anything too intensive. And then just kind of getting a feel for the who's who that's out there. But SCUF being, what it is, the reputation that it has, the gamers that use it, it's used, it's not that a gamer using it is anything. Obviously it's going to look good if, pros using it or a tier level players using it. But the functionality was a big thing with me, and being able to really work the either the pad or the throttle or the triggers and all that good stuff. And then so I got my SCUF about the same time I got my PC, and that was right before my liver transplant, because I knew I was going to need a controller to kind of functionally use what's going to work on PC in conjunction with Xbox Game Pass and, of course, Steam and every title in between and all that stuff. So I wanted something that was going to have a guaranteed compatibility, and just having the extra buttons was a bonus, because this was before I even started playing Star Citizen. So that wasn't even a contributing factor. That, and they look really cool. So there you go. And then too, who's the other gamer? What's her name? The other they call it Noisy Butters. When she's out there like at a haunting pace with a sniper rifle, just schwacking everybody. She uses SCUF, and a bunch of other people use SCUF. So that's just kind of like, okay, let me see what's going on, check it out. And the customization you can do from the website was another big. That was a big thing. There's a lot of customization that you can do before you even order one. I just want a white one because the PC's white, and it, whatever. Okay, so we're in Star Citizen. Now let's start with getting the comment section down. So I'm going to go ahead and hit G5 because that was my F12, and there we go. So there's that one. And everything is still the same as far as using the joysticks and moving around. Nothing changes there. The only difference I have is how I have the pad programmed. So if I want to use one of my tools, I actually hit down on the pad. And then when I want to holster it, I just hold X and it holsters it right back up again. I don't have any weapons or anything because I want to keep this kind of simple, but it's really all the same functionality. Aim, fire, switching in between weapons, using the F key, being able to use your wheel, which I'm using the GamePad or the pad to do that. So it's all the same kind of thing, how you want to rock and roll it. And you can customize all that as well when you get back into the settings. A lot of settings. Okay, let's knock out the helmet issue, right? So there we go. So Alt, and then hitting that again. Helmet off, helmet on, helmet off. There we go. And then you can program other keys to function as the Alt, like Alt whatever else you would want to use and all that. So it's really just about getting kind of creative. Yes, you will eventually kind of run out of options, but let's just go ahead and highlight something that all right, again, so when Enterprise brought this up and we were looking at it, the modifier key right up here, which down here kind of gives you when you hold the modifier key and then you do something else, this is what will happen if you do that, which is going to be your LB button. And then I just, this is on you to kind of take a look at it, see what's going on, see what you want to change, because everything on here is exactly the same as last time. I just changed a couple things just to make it easier for me a while back ago, and he already touched on that, so that there's no reason to kind of really spend too much time getting crazy with it. So, but if it's, again, something that you're interested with, go back, look at the key bindings, take a little bit of time, look at everything, see what it does. This took me about it took me about a half hour to figure this out. All right, because I was, by the time I got on Star Citizen, oh no, wait a minute. What was I playing? No, I still got the PC and SCUF. I started playing Star Citizen. Oh, that's right. I was still up to my eyeballs in chemo, oral chemo. Never mind. Still got the PC and SCUF controller before playing Star Citizen. Sorry, my timeline is messed up, and I do apologize for that. 2024 was a busy year again. Just to kind of recap that. I did all my chemo infusions at the end of 2023, so I started my recovery from that 2024, and then by April of 2024, I started radiation oral chemo. So I was on 4,000 milligrams of Xeloda twice a day, it was nuts. It was absolutely, and I did that all the way to my did the oral chemo all the way to my transplant, which was October. So there's a lot of fogginess right there. So I always have to keep dates written down in case I start talking about stuff again. But June of 2024 is when I started doing Star Citizen. But anyway, it took me about a half hour of looking at this, looking at the controller, going back to the maps, thinking about what I want to do to kind of get used to how all this works. Because we're so used to getting on that keyboard and just making it happen. And this is where a keyboard and mouse, you have some clear advantages. But what Star Citizen already has here, what SCUF allows with getting creative, now you have a lot of flexibility to how you can apply all that to your particular game style. So let's go back. All right, let's get a ship up, and let's get that out of the way first. So let's do our... This is where it gets fun. Now you'll notice as a default on the screen, it says use RB. So the game, since I have a controller running, thinks automatically the RB button, which is basically the right front or the right top button. But since I have a program specifically for F, I still want to press. Now here's where it gets funny. You don't really have a controller. I haven't even tried to do anything with the, if this is an actual touchpad, scroll pad, because you don't have a cursor unless you want to use your mouse. But to use this sort of for selection, use the right joystick. And we're going to bring up the Pisces Expedition because everything just goes a little bit quicker. Oh, of course it did that. So let's back out and get back in there and try that again.
Welcome to the ASOC vehicle retrieval system.
And then all I did last time was press X, but I don't want to do that now. Oh, that worked last time too. That's nuts.
Welcome to the ASOC vehicle retrieval system.
All right. You worked. Wow, I should have recorded it. I know I should have recorded it. It's like, oh, hey, it does work.
Visit us again.
I'm
Goodbye.
probably going to have to use the mouse because if you don't,
Welcome
because normally you have
to
to
the
put the
ASOC
cursor right
vehicle
over
retrieval system.
the retrieve. What I was able to do was at least select it and then hit X, and it still brought it up. All right, but if you do that.
Your vehicle has been delivered to the following
So
location.
technically, it would work if you can get the cursor over there. But I did it without it, but I didn't record it, so of course it doesn't count, right? If you didn't record it, we didn't see it, it didn't happen, brother. I don't need my other earbud for that. It's all about safety first, so I like to wait till the caution thing goes down because we're OSHA compliant here at Hurston Dynamics. Just gonna get that out there. No reason this can't be fun, you know. All right, the reason why I'm using the Pisces is because you can just get in and out, you know, get things up and running and do some quick demo stuff. So coming up to the ramp, it's the same thing. I'm gonna go ahead and hit that F key, or the F command. It's gonna open it up, get back into the ramp. You can close it if you want to. All right, now once we're up to the chair, hit the keybind again, get you in. All right, now here's where the fun begins. So I hit my side 1 to get the, or my side 2, engines up. Now you notice on the, switch these over here. And let me see. I have no idea if you can do the controller in these things because you need that cursor. So I'm gonna get that, and then I'll show you guys how to go from. Okay. So very simply, activate your shields, activate your ship power. Right, simple enough. Now let's just talk about getting off the ground. Normally, when you hit up on the controller stick, nothing's happening, right? You can't do anything with your yaw and pitch because you're still on the ground. So this is where that modifier key comes in handy, because if I press that and then go up on the see, I knew the engines were off. I just wanted you guys to take about a quick 10 seconds to be like, what's going on? What's happening? All right. Who's the noob? All right. So the modifier key, lift up on the joystick, and now you're off the ground. All right. So that's how you control that. Once you're,
Landing complete.
tell you what, let me do this. Okay. So let's go ahead and get off the ground here. You know what I didn't do? Got me last time too. Try and make this as clean as possible.
Landing complete.
I always forget about the decoupling too. All right, let's try this. Take 3. All right, so normally hitting the joystick, you're not going to go anywhere. Modifier, go up a little bit once you're up off the ground. Now you can go forward, you can go back. You can do your whatever that one is. Yaw, pitch, and then your roll. Which for me, I like to have the yaw and the roll on one side as if you had your actual stick, similar to how I'm working the HOTAS. And then, of course, being able to do the strafing. And then now, looking at the bottom keys, is to get the landing gear up. That's where I've got it programmed for the bottom one. So I just hit the bottom of the pad, landing gear goes up, and then we're good to go. If I want nav mode,
Engines offline. Engines online.
good grief. Uh-oh. Did I reset that back? Let's see what happened. Let's see. What did I do? What did I do?
Landing complete.
Yep, that gets you in and out. That gets you out of... Uh-oh, I think I messed up. I think when I was resetting one of the binds, I took the nav mode off, because that's what my G3 button was supposed to be.
Engines offline.
Yep.
Engines online. Engines offline. Engines online.
So what I need to do is go back. I will go back and check that and fix that. Now going from... That's what I did. Let's see here. I know I'm already in quantum mode. Because one of the things I do with the pad too is being able to switch over to scan. That was that one. I think I combined them both.
Engines offline. Engines online.
Yeah, that's what I did, unfortunately. So I'm gonna have to go back. I'll go back and check and double check that. So my G3 button, when I talked about that before, switched between nav mode and basically regular, where you can functionally use your guns and all that stuff. And then from here, you can switch from scan and go back. So you can interchange between the two, go right to nav mode, and then use your quantum drive all simultaneously. And then somewhere in there, when I was going back, double checking everything, I had my G3 key do something. So here's what we're going to do. I need OBS. All right, so what I'm going to do is put the ship... Actually, no, I don't have to do that, do I? I don't want to take a chance. Actually, it doesn't matter because what I was going to do is put the ship back down, and I'm going to exit out and look at the map again, and then get back in here and go for round 2. So... All right, let's bring up... Oh, yeah, this is the nav key. Oh, I think I had my screen switched up or something. So... Yep, I'm just not paying close enough attention to what was going on. So it was switching in and out, but I kept hearing something. So never mind. The noob has struck again. So all right, so we're good to go there. Let's get back in there and show a little bit more of the F key functionality for getting around, buying stuff. Because I haven't actually worked controller since November, and that was just kind of messing around a little bit. Didn't do any PvP, didn't do anything extensive because I was using the my HOTAS. And kind of going back to Enderprize, so one of the things I mentioned when I was doing my C2 stuff with the Alliance, and I was talking about different YouTube channels that I've been kind of coming across during my tenure with Star Citizen. So he had a great little quick, kind of like a quick little tips thing with getting your HOTAS settings. Like if you have a HOTAS or HOTAS systems, basically going into Star Citizen, getting that file, copying it to a hard drive so that when a patch update happens, and you lose all that, instead of having to go back and spend hours reprogramming all the buttons, you go back to your file and then stick it right back in there, back to the Star Citizen folder, which I thought was great because I was trying to figure that one out. And it was just quick and to the point. It was like barely a minute. It was like, okay, here's how you do this, and just does it right there in real time. And I was like, oh, okay. Excuse me. I was like, that makes sense. And then what I'll do is grab a rifle and just kind of show some of the regular stuff because I haven't done that. So I'll be kind of like, what is the regular FPS look like? So theoretically, you can do a lot with the controller without needing to jump back on your keyboard and mouse. The biggest thing is that cursor, is trying to get that to do its thing. Because if I can get the trackpad, which I haven't even remotely tried to do anything with that yet, but if I can get that to do something, that'd be pretty neat. All right, let's get that out of there. Get my volume turned down because I don't know if I'm going too high. All right. Oh, let's see here. You know, it's funny what stays in the hangar and doesn't. I had something else in here, but down there I can't tell.
Welcome to the ASOC Vehicle Retrieval System. Please visit us again.
I will make that work.
Welcome to the ASOC Vehicle Retrieval System.
Oh, it's getting there. So you can use the...
Your vehicle has
There we
been
go.
delivered to the following location.
So you can use the right joystick to move the cursor, but that's where sometimes it may be a little bit more responsive than others. So that's just one of those, okay, do I really need to use the controller to get my cursor where I need it to be, rather than just getting the mouse out, putting the cursor where I need to, and then call it a day. For instance, when you get into your inventory, there's no way to, at least I haven't figured out a way. This is where you kind of need to get back on the mouse just for a little bit to grab something. Don't worry about the 40 optics that I have and all that, red dots and all kinds of stuff. All right, let's grab a... I want to grab something I had already kind of spiced up here. I got done doing my force protection video. I did how to load up. That's not important. Let me just stick to the Foxtrot 55. It's where it's at, my man. All right, let's do that. Let's do this, and let's throw on... Oop, not that one. You know, the one thing I will say about the containers is if there is a way to where we could label them, that would be kind of neat. Because now I've shuffled these things around, forgot what's what. That's where I keep all my dress clothes, and I'm looking all professional working for Hurston when I'm out doing the contracting thing. All right, let's just grab up any backpack at this point and throw it on there. So much armor, so little time. All right. Now, since you don't have a mouse key, essentially all we're really going to be doing is using the GamePad as sort of like your mouse. So if I want to switch between the multi-tool, which is the down, and then I click over on the right. How'd that do that again? Make sure I said that right and I'm not doing it all backwards. All right, so on the wheel I had down there and then left to toggle between weapons, right? And you can still do that if you hold the base pad, basically the up key, and use the right joystick. Then you can circle around if I want to just kind of do it manually again. Let's see, what was what? That was fire. That's aim. So my bottom joystick was aim, and then the other one's fire. Check. Let's see here. What else did I have programmed? Melee. So your X key is going to be your reload key, and of course your holster. The reason why I did the checks, I don't have any other magazines. But that's something you can get back into the keybinds. You can kind of fine tune it. That's one of those things that I didn't spend a lot of time on. I usually prefer my aim and trigger to be the top buttons, not the bottom ones, just because of the amount of travel. Even though you can shorten that, I kind of like the instantaneous as if I was actually on a range running a gun and doing my thing. I want that instantaneous feedback. But in this case, I couldn't change that for some reason, but that's where I wasn't spending that much time with it. But in any case, it's pretty much all the same stuff. And it is what it is. So go there, change your fire mode, and that's pretty much the meat and potatoes. Everything else is going to be about the same. Your jump, crouch, lay, prone. Now here's where you can use P1 through P4 or the G1 through G5 is you could get it to where you could do more of the camera stuff. So if you want to go to third person, you could do that. I mean, there's really no limitations. It's just what you want to do. And then what you can do as well is if we go back to the beginning when we were talking, right? So you got your presets, your mappings, and when you go to mappings, you can set up custom mappings. So you can say, I want one set to be completely dedicated to nothing but my actual character in a FPS mode, right? And then you can have another one that's dedicated solely to doing ship operations. So you can switch back and forth pretty seamlessly. So you don't have to worry about compromising how you would want to do your button setup. Like eventually you do run out of buttons, but I can say, okay, I can have one setup for ship, one for FPS, and just bounce back and forth between the two. And that'll kind of give you a little bit more flexibility. Now let's head over to, let's see if I can demo the keybind thing. Doing purchases and all that good stuff. Oh, here we go. This is where it gets kind of funny too. So you got to press and hold, and you can use the right joystick to get it in there. And then it'll do its thing. The trick is getting, because the cursor likes to jump around on its own merit. It doesn't just glide back and forth like you had a mouse. So when you kind of get it to where you want it to go, as long as it's just sort of on there, and then, you know, hit A, and then you're good to go. That took me a little bit to get used to as well. So in some respects, that's where you can jump right back onto the keyboard and just, you know, knock out the cursor thing. But it is good practice, because after a while, when I was doing it with the controller, and then I was spending a couple days with it, it pretty much took care of itself. I mean, you do get used to these sort of things. It's just like anything else. It's just practice, kind of understanding the equipment, understanding the functionality. I like kind of finding where the limit is on a lot of these things. I just realized I didn't even need to go all the way back there. I was going to go all the way back to, I forgot they got a little shop set up near New Deal now. I don't know when that was thrown in there. That was pretty cool, having a little setup now. Just grab some pokey bait, grab some pops. Save me from having to truck all the way across to. All right, so now, since you want to do a buy hold, that's pretty self-explanatory, right? You just press and hold. Does this thing. Where I was running into trouble was before the F key bind, if I just wanted to do a quick buy, that it wouldn't do. It wasn't registering. What am I trying to say? It wasn't registering what I wanted it to do. Now I think. Yeah. One thing I forgot was, what is it to? Nope, that's throwing it. Now we got that out of the way. Where'd you go? Let's grab another one. Just going to see what the command was to.
Nice choice.
Or in this case, this is where I would just go right back to the mouse. Because I forgot what the. Yep, that drops it, switches over, so, all right. All right, so I need to go back and revisit that. But point is, if you leave the RB button as a default and you go up to try and do like a quick purchase or something, it's not going to do it, or it won't register the button press. And the other thing I was finding too was dealing with the elevators. Like it wouldn't call the elevator, and then once I even got in and tried to use the actual keypad, that just was not happening.
Hey.
So let's get back down there where we had an hour and 5 minutes. And sometimes, like, knowing how Star Citizen is, you're gonna have to, even if it says elevator called, sometimes it doesn't quite register it. So, all right, we're getting there. So hopefully they'll get everything squared away, and he'll be able to do another video. See, now the cursor's not showing. So let's do this again.
Goodbye.
This is where it does get a little jumpy. So that's really up to you whether or not you want to use the controller dedicated to doing that, or you want to use the keyboard and mouse just to bring some stuff up. But again, it's just kind of good practice to realize, yes, it does functionally work. I want to get in there and do that nav thing again because that was really throwing me off. Make sure I'm not going crazy. Safety first, people. It's always about safety first. All right, so right now we're in gun mode, scan mode, back to gun mode. So my bottom trigger is what kind of gives me the secondary screen there, triggers, which you can change that up if you want to. You still have your function key. This is where I didn't really, because now again you can move it around, but you can kind of see where it gets a little bit cumbersome. So this is where just getting on the keyboard and mouse and just making it happen is just going to go a lot faster for you. But it is functional. You can do it. It's just takes a little bit of time. Okay, so there we go. That's what was throwing me off last time. I was doing it. It just my screen. So what I normally do when I have when I set up my nav. Is I like to on a side note, how's engineering working out for everybody? I haven't really tinkered around with it that much. All I've really been doing is the Alliance Age stuff with my CTU, so it's not that much wear and tear. But how's everybody liking it? So, kind of curious about that. All right, so when I'm in nav mode, Typically, this is what I have my setup to where I can see my output here, fuel status here, any type of call sign, then I can still do a scan if I need to. So when I go back to gun, this is how I like to have it, where I've got, you know, weapon systems up, you know, the HUD's up, target, scan. I got, you know, power management on the other side, even though that's not too much of the focus. And I can still hit back to scan. All right, glad it wasn't just me going crazy. And then again, if I want to take off, we can't go anywhere because we're on the ground. Once we get up,
Takeoff complete. Landing complete.
then we're good to go. And then again, if I want to do my landing gear, hit the bottom of the actual left side pad, landing gears up, landing gears down, forward, back, start to do my somewhat of a, when you roll, yaw, yay. Oh my goodness. Oh, and then to go back down, of course, you hit the mod button and there's your strafe. I kept saying all those wrong, so. All right, let me turn. So to get your up, down, front, back, left, right strafing done. So once the mod's pressed, up, down, side, side, and then forward, back, whatever you want to call that, tilt, feng shui, yaw, and then pitch and roll. So all can be done from there. That's where that mod key comes in handy. And then to get back down, you just mod key, go down, boom, right back on the landing pads, and then you're good to go. And then I can do engines and then hit my shield. Hit power off, and then G1 for Y. Get out of the ship. Close the hatch. We're just an hour and 12 minutes. Oh, this would be perfect for doing chapter markers. I can get this loaded up to YouTube in about another hour or so. All right, let's get old Betsy back down in the hangar. And
Welcome to the ASOP vehicle retrieval system.
I didn't want to get my Sulin out because that thing is a little on the buggy side. So work your cursor over.
Vehicle has been moved to our storage facility.
Oh, I know what I was doing. When I was doing the G button, I hit the power button, which incidentally is your inventory button too. So, but again, once you bring that open, just go right back to keyboard and mouse. If you want to move stuff in and out and all that, don't try and do the joystick thing because it's just going to get absolutely insane. And that is it. That's the so all things being equal, right? Going back to Enterprise and the video he was trying to do, this is the tempo of how things would have happened for him if that couple of those little speed bumps hadn't presented themselves. Which again, that's nobody's fault. That's just, you know, it was just some circumstance. Things got a little bogged down. And I'm trying to figure out where in that sequence I probably could have helped out, because originally I was watching it on YouTube, and I had made a comment. Of course, when you're streaming to multiple platforms and you got your chat boxes going, however fast it's going. So I hopped over to Twitch, and then I was asking some questions, and everybody was giving some good feedback. I'm not sure where in the sequence I might have been able to help, other than once he went to mapping and then checked the game controller settings. Saying that it was just Xbox. If I would have been able to say, hey man, no, you're good, just go back to mapping, you can start doing keybinds. And then The only thing I was able to sort of do, I got set up to go live because I was going to go live and say, hey, I'm live right now. We'll get you through it and all that stuff. But I think it was about near 3.5 hours. I'd been a little wore out myself. So, all right, let's do this. Let's bring up. All right, so kind of recapping everything. Number one, SCUF controller does work with Star Citizen, and it does work well. The only thing is really where are you going to fit different keybinds into your particular gameplay, right? And then kind of working around the cursor thing, which is nothing more than just having the keyboard and mouse ready to go. One of the things that I did in that video was I had my my HOTAS, and I was working that a little bit. I'm not really going to spend any time talking about that because that's just going to kind of drag things on. But watching Enderprize and a few other cats in Star Citizen is what got me kind of even tuned back into stick and throttle and HOTAS, and all that stuff, and what I was going to get and what I ended up getting and all that. But that's a whole different ball game. But kind of staying focused to this a little bit. I had my stick and throttle, and then what I would do is I would run ship function with that, and then once I got down, I was using the controller for doing FPS stuff. So I did a bunker run with the controller, but that's when I was a little bit more, tuned into what was going on with the controller and all that stuff. So it's very feasible. When we go back to, so order march again from the unboxing, right? Plug the controller into the PC, get the actual dongle adapter plugged into the PC. Download the iCUE software if you don't already have it. Make sure your firmware updates are good. Once everything is 100%, great. Restart the computer, leaving everything plugged in, of course. Once the computer restarts, fire up the iCUE software, and then this will all pop up. When you want to go wireless, then you unplug the unit, flip the switch over to the wireless mode, and then you'll be good to go. If you need to kind of do a restart on something, like turn the controller off and turn it back on again, that's fine. But it will automatically fire up for you. Don't have to do anything with the dongle once it's plugged into the PC. And don't plug it in a hub. That's the other contributing factor there that might cause a little bit of snag for you. It'll give you the battery power on the controller. You can always go to your settings. And then, of course, the actual wireless mode won't have like a coloring to it to gauge if there's a good or bad signal, right? It's just the icon's up and you're connected. The range in the dongle is supposed to be, I believe, I think it was a touch over 30 feet. So we'll say 30 feet was about the max. So if you've got anywhere within a 20-foot sort of space, somewhat direct line, you should be okay. My PC is only about 7 feet away from me. I just run longer cables for stuff, but it's over on a board on the shelf on the dresser over here. So it's not really, signal heavy or anything. Going back to mappings, and let's go back to the preset. Let me start there. So your preset this is what it's going to look like. And your preset mappings is you can kind of like take it down to shooter, battle royale. You got all these options where it will sort of change periodically what the controller does look like. Not much because, again, when we're thinking about just a regular controller, then it's those keybinds are pretty much universal. When you come over to your custom layout, now you can start really getting in the meat and potatoes of what the SCUF, the options that the SCUF controller gives you. And if you want to change out your key bindings, you want to right click, go to remap, go to keyboard, and then from there, again, kind of showing you can kind of set whatever you want. What I haven't spent any time doing is looking at, go back at that other. What I haven't done any time doing is looking at all the other stuff, like what does the long key or the mouse or the keystroke do, that kind of thing. I'm sure, I think that's where I think Enterprise mentioned doing macros. And I'm not really a macro guy, even though I've been playing World of Warcraft since before Burning Crusade. I still don't really quite get macros, so that just kind of shows you, what's going on there. But if I'm looking at this, you may be able to do, it says, okay, type of key or key combination. So you might be able to do, like, let's just say the Alt-H thing, right? So I could probably program that one button click to do everything. Going back to, so all this other stuff I haven't really spent any time with. I know you can do the Elgato stuff, and he had his little virtual thing come up, and then he was showing his Stream Deck. Again, I haven't played with that side of the house yet because I just got one of those little Discord Stream Decks from Elgato just to start and stop the stream, and I got some audio bites on there when I'm gaming and some stuff, and that's it. So this would be something for either him or anyone else to really deep dive and explore because of the expansive amount of things that they do, particularly when it comes to gaming, streaming, and all the other content that they create and all that good stuff. So, but just kind of give a heads up there. So that flexibility is all into your custom side of the house. And then you specifically want to go to keyboard, and then you can do your keybinds. And as, again, going into the game, everything works. And if you want to bring up Steam, you just hit the controller power button. It pops up automatically. And just as a refresher, you don't need the iCUE software open to use the controller. Make sure you don't have any other software that would compete with what you want to use the controller for. So I wouldn't have Steam, Star Citizen, and well, I haven't tried it yet. Maybe Star Citizen and Call of Duty open, see if it'll go back and forth. I don't know. Maybe I'll try that one night on a stream. I'm getting tired. Medications are kicking in. That's always my good excuse after I take my meds at night. My autoimmune suppressor and my anti-rejection medication really knocks you. Okay. So that rehashes everything. You got to see a good demo, sort of, because I'm kind of getting back in the swing of things with controller. But it was imperative that, again, showcasing that it does work. There's very limited issues that you would particularly have getting it up and running, what things to look out for. And this really goes to anybody. And that way it's like, oh, okay, maybe I'll start entertaining the idea of, if you have a SCUF controller and you play Star Citizen, well, now you can kind of tinker around with it. If you don't have a SCUF controller, this is just what I use, because I didn't, because if I was going to do anything with Xbox related games, or more specifically Call of Duty, of course I'm going to be doing Halo again because I haven't played that in 21 years. And because mainly everything else is keyboard and mouse. So Arc Raiders, Stellaris, I was doing Starfield before I did Star Citizen, but basically a lot of the meat and potatoes of all the other games I have are a keyboard and mouse based game, other than specifically Call of Duty. I heard you can do Arc Raiders with controller. I've seen it for PS5. Maybe I'll start tinkering around with Arc Raiders and the SCUF. Maybe do some keybinds and maybe do a video. Or if somebody's out there and you already are pretty Johnny on the spot with both a SCUF and Arc, hey, get on there, do some key binding, and let's get that info out there. Like, hey, here's how you can key bind a SCUF controller for doing, or any controller for that matter, for doing Arc Raider, considering on PS5, that's really what the option is. So, all right, I'm going to get this over to, I'm going to get this into Final Cut, get the chapter markers put in. I appreciate everyone's time and attention. And Enderprize, if you see this, bro, just let you know, appreciate the work that you do, man. I've talked about you before, you and about 5 other channels that are that, as I refer to it, have their fingers on the pulse of the game and are able to provide some constructive feedback that we can all take and use and apply to our particular game style, which is one of the things that I talked about. This is just a little listing of channels that I've been keeping track of since I started playing, and I've got 47 channels. So maybe we'll talk about all of them one day. I just might do that, since everybody gets early access except for ship testing. I found that kind of interesting. I feel like the Moth could have used a little bit more work, but since a lot of you guys get access to the engineering, you got access to the crafting, the new inventory system, maybe we ought to reach out and ask, hey, maybe we can, get some ship testing put in there. But I'll probably do a separate video on the who's who in the Star Citizen world online, because there have been a lot of channels that I've been watching from the beginning, and how I've applied these particular channels and their feedback to my gameplay, which is, again, something I've talked about before, but that was maybe 5 channels. But, now I can talk about 47. not including the Star Citizen channel. So that actually makes it 48. And I know there's another 20, 30, 40, 50, 500 out there, but it is what it is. So, all right, I'm going to get off of here. Again, I appreciate everybody's time and attention. If you got any questions about the controller itself or the software or anything like that, throw some comments down below while everybody kind of gets recalibrated and gets back on there. Let's get some videos out there. Let's get some good information out there. And remember, my fellow gamers, play with a purpose, soak up that bandwidth, and I wish you all the greatest success in all of your gaming endeavors. I'll see you online.